Folks, I genuinely believe that we are at the end of the they them era. And the fact that there even has to be an end of they them is the problem to begin with. I mean, I remember when this foolishness first started making its way into the mainstream. And all I could think to myself was, first of all, what the hell are these people talking about? Right? Now, my first thought wasn't, well, if people want to do them, then they can do them, no pun intended, right? But just don't put it onto me. I literally thought to myself, this is insane, right? God honest truth. And it was after a little bit of conditioning and programming, right? Just a little bit of that push into the mainstream where I started to not accept it, but I thought to myself, okay, as long as you don't try to push that ideology into me, even though I knew, just like pretty much any other sane human being knows, that there are indeed only two genders. There have only been two the entire time. Now, we can play pretend, little kids become something new every single day, right? If you got little ones, you've likely seen it. They can be a T-Rex one day, a shark the next day, and a firefighter the next minute, right? Whatever they want to be, they can be in that moment. But for a grown-ass adult to declare themselves to be some abstract concept outside of reality, and for the rest of us to have to accept it, that right there is problematic. And I'll get into why it is problematic. This ain't just some right-wing, far-right, conservative propaganda sort. This ain't that. Like, we're going to get into the real today. But nevertheless, we get to a place where, at first we're like, this is ridiculous. What the hell are we talking about? It's kind of a fringe idea. A they and a them. I remember thinking to myself, is this like a group of people? Like, have you turned into a collective? They? And then when I knew it was real, folks, was when I heard my own blood brother using the terminology. When I heard him referring to a significant other using these words, at first I thought he was talking about, again, friends, like a host. Oh, they did this, them, them. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. People are using this in real life. So from that moment until now, I have been praying, wishing, and hoping that we find our way back to sanity, right? Our culture has been taken over by this woke mind virus, by essentially a mental illness that has been so severe, it has literally stripped us from reality. It is like a collective schizophrenia of sorts, where we have forgotten what it is to just be regular, normal, common sense human beings. And so I would continue to wish, hope, and pray that something happened, not realizing that I actually had to be a part of that solution. I had to open my mouth. I had to say something about it. I used to be so afraid to be canceled, which is a part of that woke system, if you would say. It is part of the woke institution. If you were to say the woke ideologues were some sort of collective group that were in unison and they had an agenda, allegedly, right? What would their main form of gaining power and attention and authority be? And I would say there are two. One is pity and sympathy, and the other is coercion and bullying or manipulation, right? They're in it for power, and the way they find their way to power is more times than not, they're going to play the pity card. They're going to play the woe is me card, the victim card, or manipulation, bullying, coercion, etc. They will cancel you from your own existence if you do not subscribe to their own ideology. This is essentially a cult on steroids, because at least a cult in most cases has some sort of singular leader, right? And usually that leader represents an image of God. Even though there's a whole lot of foolishness going on in these cults, right? I've done enough research to know that I am lightweight obsessed with understanding how these things work and why we fall into them in the first place, etc. But at least they have some sort of leadership, whereas the woke ideology doesn't have a leader, it doesn't have a God per se. Instead, its entire, ranking system is based off of victimhood. It's based off of said oppression. It's oppressor versus oppressed, right? That's their God-devil sort of interplay. And whoever they place in the oppressed section of it, whoever they place within the oppressed group, the marginalized group, becomes the most powerful group, and they have the most say-so. Example, in the F people, because you can't use the word fat anymore, I guess. The F people is what they're now referring to them as. Within this collective of individuals who are obese, there's a ranking system, right? There's the ones that's like super wide or super big back or whatever the hell they call them. But God honest truth, they say if you are a smaller obese individual, you have less of a voice than a larger individual. It's just like if you're a woman, you have a voice, but if you are a non-biological woman, i.e. a dude pretending to be a chick, you have more of a say-so than the actual biological woman. And let you be queer or part of the alphabet community or whatever it is, you have 5, 10, 15 more ranking points within your own system. You become closer to godhood in essence. It's pure insanity. And so this they-them sort of mentality, this practice of creating and molding reality in their own whacked out way, that then led to us having to accept ideas such as they, them. This was problematic because the moment that we started to buy into it, it's kind of like 1930s, 1940s Germany. And I don't use this lightly. I'm not using it in the way that some of the mass media, the mass propaganda machine likes to use it, right? Just using the word fascist, etc. But if you do look into just plain old history, right? You ain't got to go that deep into it and see what it is that brought regular everyday citizens into a place where they were enabling behaviors of the little mustache man and his regime. Because not everybody was, I guess, hands-on, as we would say, but they were complicit in what was going on. They were complicit in the genocide. What would have led to that? Well, it's simple. The silent majority. When you have the larger group of individuals afraid to speak out, they're afraid to get canceled, they're afraid, to have their neighbor rat them out in essence, and so they subscribe to an ideology, as destructive as it may be, as a survival tool. And instead of speaking out against it, it's allowed to prevail. It's allowed to permeate throughout the society. And that's exactly what happened with they, them. I remember it creeping in. Folks, we didn't just wake up one day and it was, hey, we're going to strip your kids from you and we're going to put them on these blockers. And essentially we're going to give them, these operations that they can never reverse. We're going to actually stifle their puberty. So we're going to put them on these blockers because they said that they are something other than what they are. Like, we didn't wake up to that. We didn't wake up to the mutilation of children. It didn't start there. We got there sequentially by accepting little by little. And again, I am guilty as anybody because I remember being silent when it mattered. I remember not standing up for truth and saying, wait a minute, that's a ridiculous idea. That's why I go so hard now, because I know that if I'm not at least a voice of reason or what I believe to be reason, or just a counter voice to whatever message is being perpetuated and pushed, if I don't do that, then it's like there's a compounding effect of the other message, right? I believe like the light is the only way to combat the dark. You don't confront or combat the dark by allowing it to just permeate and hoping and wishing for the best. I've now figured that out. I used to be part of the manifestation world and things of that nature, believing that you could just sit your butt on the couch and things would change. Well, turns out that that's not the case. If you want things to change, you have to change those things. Simple as that. But I allowed a lot of this to go on, just like many of us. We're afraid to get canceled. We're afraid to lose our jobs. We're afraid, to get ratted on. We're afraid to lose our friends, our family members, whatever it may be. In some people's cases, like in California, they're afraid to lose your child. Speaking against this. So instead of losing your child in maybe that way, you then end up losing your child in a completely different way, to the ideology that consumed them whole. And those are the ones that they're looking to get to. It's always targeted towards the youth, because they're going to carry that message or that mentality forward. That's why it's on college or university campuses that most of this nonsense is going on. It likely started there. A lot of the professors with the gender ideology and the critical race theory and all this mental illness disguised as intellect Most of that started on these university campuses. The so-called elite, so-called intellectual class who push these whacked out ideas that are untethered from reality. And then they find ourselves in a place where the everyday person is going along with it. The kids who graduate then become your politicians, they become your business people, etc. Now, instead of having individuals who are citizens contributing to your ecosystem, you have activists who are trying to tear it apart, who are trying to destroy the institutions that essentially helped to make the thing what it is. You know, a lot of kids, a lot of folks who talk to me about socialism, communism, and try to defend it, I say, okay, if you're defending communism or socialism from a capitalistic society, you don't actually believe in the strength of communism, socialism. You don't. If you did, you would live in a nation that was purely that ideology. I'm not even talking about some of these European countries. And mind you, few of them have fallen just because they have given themselves over to this, what they're calling now toxic empathy, right? They're trying to save every damn body and they end up destroying themselves. But let's go to some of the countries people like to point at, such as Norway, etc. They might have a socialist, social ideology, but they're damn sure capitalist and democratic when it comes to their politics or their economics. They classify themselves as such, right? You're going to Sweden, Denmark, people love to bring these countries up to defend socialism, and they're not full representations. You have to go to Nicaragua, you got to go to Cuba and places like that if you want to go to the full expression. Zimbabwe, if you want to see socialism and how that worked out actually in a very short span of time. These are the realities, folks. Even South Africa, right? Nelson Mandela was a socialist. I respect a lot of things he did, but he was still a socialist, and socialism does not work. Unfortunately, that's why many of these African countries have fallen. And so the same individuals who are purporting that these ideologies are the ones we need to be a part of, engaged in, or adopt, and we need to tear apart what we have right now, these very same people have never actually experienced real life. Most of them are actually kids. If not kids in the body, then at least kids in the mind. They have not matured. They likely don't have many responsibilities. That's why many of them are the quote unquote elite class. White middle class liberals are the ones who are telling the rest of us, or even wealthy white liberals are the ones telling the rest of us what we're supposed to believe, what we're supposed to do or not do. Look at Hollywood. What is that? That's a mishmash of theater kids, of now millionaires, decamillionaires, and in some cases billionaires, who are trying to tell everyday people, right, non-adult pretenders, what to believe and what to think. And we find ourselves one day waking up to a world where pronouns are now a requirement. You walk into a classroom as a teacher, and now you have to listen out for pronouns. You are now, a boss at a job or a supervisor, and you now have to put into account everybody's pronouns. How the hell do we get to they, them? We get there because we are the silent majority, and we can no longer afford to be a silent majority. That's really the message that is underlying this. We can no longer afford to be silent about these things. Unless we want to give over the republic that we stand in right now, that we exist in. Unless we want to give over this free market capitalistic society that has afforded us at least the opportunity to advance in our lives. If we want to give that all up, then give ourselves over to just being silent and continuing to allow this to perpetuate. That's why when I hear folks say, I want to make content too, videos, etc. Look, I don't know if that's the thing you are called to do on this earth. I hope it is. And if it's something that's calling to you, beautiful. Do that. And do it as frequently as you can. It takes me nothing to do this. This is what I have to do this. Like I say, in order for me to go to sleep at night, I made an agreement with God. I said, in order for me to be able to go to sleep at the end of the day, I must have told the whole truth, none but the truth, so help me God. I have to get it all off of my chest. If I don't do that, then I can't go to bed at night. And so with all of us, I believe that there is something calling in us. And it's not just in this messaging, but in doing something structurally within our own lives, becoming the best mother, the best father, the best whatever it is. Those things are beneficial to our society. Standing up for truth, standing up for what is right, forming healthy families. That right there is contributing to the solution as opposed to the problem. not cowering down, and not being a coward in the face of tyranny. That right there is taking the greatest stand you could ever take, to be bold, no matter what the consequence may be. Because I promise you this, when you stand for the truth, you live in truth. And when you live in accordance with the truth, you'll always be taken care of. I can't tell you the exact way, but I know that. Because the moment I started telling the whole truth, everything that I would have desired, taken care of. I want for nothing financially at this point. Genuinely. And y'all support and y'all show love because I'm expressing myself, because I'm creating value in the world, because I'm giving in this way. Y'all continue to give this way. Y'all continue to show love this way. It's reciprocated. It then emboldens more people to speak out and to continue to perpetuate the message. Maybe they take this message and share that message. Like, there's a host of ways where truth multiplies on itself, just like light floods in a room. When it is a dark space and you turn on the light will flood the entire space. And that's what I look to do, and I pray that you continue to do in your own life. But till the next time, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Peace.
I used to be afraid of the dark, place unknown like a hardening heart. I used to see my life in the bar. Now the kids unchained, every shackle is lost. 2 steps in the moonlight, 2 step in the daytime. You just know when it feel right. You got a feeling the time's not. See you through those shades that I just threw on. Through my lenses, you just can't do no wrong. I fell in love with myself again. I fell in love with myself. I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. I can see the light again. I can see the light. You can see the life in him illuminate the night. I know the time is taking. A 365, that's a full rotation. I see you looking up, you know them constellations. Constantly gazing like house of praises, you get to praising. They see your light shine, that's why they so frustrated. Even the sofa in Nova Scotia will win the bagels. I couldn't get them ease on the grease, why they burning up? Money growing trees, feel a breeze, still you show.